Welcome back to another episode of the Skits and Giggles podcast. For this one, we sat down with Marco Giarana for a deep dive into his company, Fair Bicycle. With Fair, Marco and his business partner Valentin are trying to rewrite the script of what product design and manufacturing means, and it was interesting to hear Marco's thoughts on sustainability, transparency, cradle-to-cradle design, innovation, working with suppliers, and how all those puzzle pieces come together in Fair Bicycle. With the drop best dropper clamp for mountain bikes and the daily hook cargo strap for cargo bikes, Fair has two products out in the wild to illustrate what their approach actually means in practice, and we are sure that there are many more to come. For more information about this episode and the Skits and Giggles podcast, you can just follow the links in the description. To support the podcast, please share this episode with your riding buddies or leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform. That's it, that's all, Skigglers, and here's our chat with Marco Giarana. Welcome to the Skits and Giggles podcast, Marco Giarana. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, hi Pascal, hi Bryson, nice to meet you. I'm doing well after a day with the kids, which had nothing to do with bikes except hanging out in the sun 1 hour today in front of a nice bike shop in Bar. And all good. It feels like it's weekend because it's vacation time, so kind of strange, but tomorrow another day of full-on work, and then we are off to the snow, if there is any left.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite warm for this time of the year. It's February, and it was a balmy 14 degrees today. Bryson, how are you today?
I'm all right. I took advantage of that balmy 14 degrees, so I'm happy about that. How about you?
Oh, same here, same. I guess we can't complain too much. Tonight, we wanted to talk about your company, Marco, Fair Bicycle, because I think it's really interesting what you guys are trying to do in terms of setup for the company, how you set up your business, and of course, what you try to do with the products. And I thought it would be really interesting to get a bit of a deep dive about what it actually is for our listeners. So why don't we get started with the basic 2-minute elevator pitch? What is it that Fair Bicycle does?
I think we are far below 2 minutes. So it's Valentin Wendel and myself. We were working at E76 for a long time together. He as an engineer and myself as a designer. And we were just kind of getting bored of the way this big bike business works. And we want to do something our own way, like maybe as you think of like the proper way, like you think I'm going to do it the proper way. And we started thinking about that, and Fair is what came out.
So the proper way. What is the proper way?
The proper way is, like I studied industrial design, and as in many studies, like you're done after X amount of years, and you're like, what the hell did I do there? What have I learned actually? And one big takeaway, when you think about it, you'll have some points that you remember. And one was a TEDx talk by Simon Sinek. He's like I think
inspirational speaker, motivational, everything.
Yeah, something like that. And he has a thing that is like a speech that was start with the why, and then Valentin and I, we were really asking ourselves the why. His example, maybe for those listeners who don't know Simon Sinek, he's like the Wright brothers who made the first airplane to fly. They were in a battle with some rich guy who was financed by the U.S. Army, but for that guy, it was just like a task and like an elitism thing to do. And he had all the money, but the Wright brothers, they had they just followed their passion. And the rest is history. Like the guy never took off, and they did. And so it was about that. And we were in this big bike industry, seeing the manufacturing side and the purchasing side, how like the Western companies interact with all these suppliers in Far East. And it was just like we were like, this is not like ecologically and socially not okay. And Valentin has a wife. He has a Taiwanese wife, and So some insights there, and of course through the years, like he's an avid former XC rider, elite rider, and I was and still am an avid rider in more disciplines. So you were always thinking about products, and we were discussing in coffee breaks, and we turned friends because we were just like colleagues at work, and we were like talking about some products like that we actually could make and think where we could improve, and we were like thinking how to do it, and it was clear that it needed to be also because my father, he used to be a union guy, like a machinist, but heavily into the union side of things. And so the thing was like it needs to be socially okay what we do, and it needs to be ecologically okay. And actually, another takeaway from my studies was like that some professor dropped. We had a workshop with a cradle-to-cradle specialist. That was back in 2008 or 9 when nobody was talking about that, and I was just hooked on this like circular thing that there's like a biological circle or there's like a technological circle, but materials should flow. So we wanted to do that as well and prove that we can do like high performance bike parts fully cradle to cradle and socially more than acceptable, but socially well done. Yeah.
Can you maybe, because right now obviously it all sounds quite abstract, can you maybe illustrate with a simple example what you mean with like cradle to cradle, or the circularity, or how that fits together in like a real world example?
So as far as cradle to cradle goes, it's funny, like a simple example, like you want to use a cartridge bearing, like an industrial bearing, for example. It has a rubber cover, and the rubber is not circular right now. There are no solutions as far as we know. So when we think about like we have two applications where we would need a traditional bearing, but it helps that Valentin is like really into metals, and there are solutions like these bearings are made for high rotation speeds. I think many people know that. So actually, a good solution would be to use a metal bearing, like a metal bushing, with the right lubrication specifics of the material itself. So that's right there a solution that you can easily do it. It might need some more like communication to the customer, hey, or like it may need a grease nipple so that you can grease that bearing or something like that. But it's totally feasible. It's just like, okay, buying a cartridge bearing, putting in there, it's so easy because everybody does it. But you can achieve the same in many cases. Some cases it's not possible. But that's basically one example of how you can go this cradle to cradle way.
So you mean by just breaking it down for myself a little bit, right? So kind of taking it, take a step back and say like, okay, well, if I buy a fixed cartridge bearing product, and that's that has X amount of parts and components, and they may or may not be so circular or recyclable or anything, but if you actually go a step further and redesign or take an existing design that is not relying on any of those things, like, because as you said, like metal to metal and lubrication and smarter design, then you can get it to a step where you can take it back apart and recycle it or reuse it, or am I misunderstanding?
Exactly. No, that's it. Like you need, like we did, we talked about this before the show. It helps to like flip things around and like start from zero, or like all these strategies that you learn as an engineer or designer, and that helps. And that's you can solve many things. Of course, we cannot make a circular MTB high performance tire tomorrow. That's not possible. So we also have to be honest about that. There's just situations where it's not possible. But we are really like what we do at Fair is like we really go talk to people. Like if we need a plastic solution for one product we have now. So we were looking into, there are people who are injection molding plastic that is totally home compostable. So we really dive deep into that, and this ended up us now working with a 3D printing company that make a filament that is like home compostable. I can explain that a little bit further. So yeah, that they will formulate their filaments specially for us. They're interested to gain first world knowledge because yeah, there's also not so much demand for what they think is a good product. And we also, through them, we slipped into like a research program from the EU Horizon and blah, 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 a big thing, where they are developing like home compostable polymers, like think of like a chainstay protection rubber, but that is compostable under industrial, did I say home compostable? Under industrial circumstances. So like industrial composting facilities that they can process it. And yeah, but we really dive kind of deep into this. Like we research with the compost facilities in Switzerland. What happens like for 3D filament, for example, 3D printing filament, they all claim to be compostable, but what happens in facilities is that they take it out because they have like a 2-month circle where they have their material needs to be basically soil after that, and this thing will just take 6 months. So these facilities, they just take out all the plastic stuff that is now declared as as compostable, and people throw it in the compost. And so yeah, we go down that route, and with the 3D printed filament, we are not done yet because we tested it at home. We've been testing this for 2 years now. And we cannot really make it decompose fast enough, so it's not good enough for us. But it's also, yeah, it kind of sucks because we cannot go ahead with that product we have in mind because we want that solution.
Can we take a step back, right, and to go, as you said before, also turn the sheet of paper around and take the other side? It's kind of like, okay, we talked about Fair Bicycle. You try to do it the proper way. We talk about circularity. We talk about cradle to cradle. But can we go to the start and maybe map out a little bit what kind of the areas are that you want to kind of innovate in and kind of solve these problems? Because right now it sounds like you're trying to solve all the problems, but I guess that's not quite the case. So maybe what is high on your list at the moment?
Do you mean product wise or like cradle to cradle wise, or even
kind
or
of, I
even
guess
fair?
one solves for the other, right? Because if you talk to us about the products that you're thinking about, without obviously giving away too many secrets,
Yeah.
then with those products we can talk about the cradle to cradle or other problems that you're trying to solve.
Cool, got it. Yeah. So basically, at Fair Bicycle, we are aiming at 2 markets, if you will. One is like the niche thing, like our dropper post offset clamp to offset your saddle position. In this MTB niche and racing, I shall say, because Valentin is I call him because he's just Volley, but Valentin is he's really into XC racing. He's very in touch with the scene, and so he knows the needs, and so that's one area where we're focusing. And the other one is like utility bikes, like urban, like tools. So we think there is quite a growing scene for people who may or may not be like performance bike riders, but they also want to have a nice bike for the city and commuting use, whatever. And there are really a lot of shitty products still on these bikes. Like I'm just saying, like you need a kickstand. Like if you think Chris King headsets, and the kickstands are just like garbage. And yeah, looking at things like that to make stuff proper that lasts long, that you can repair, that you can take apart, you can, yeah, and ultimately are cradle to cradle. So that's a bit that's the product perspective or our horizon, yeah.
What I found really interesting was earlier you were describing how you were doing this because you wanted to create products that bring products to market that were okay in terms of your standards.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to explore that a little bit more because your standards are different than kind of like the standard that's already like kind of in the established for the in the general consumer populace, let's say. And as you've expressed already, we can really dive deep into all these things. But it seems like, I guess the question for me was like, where do you stop determining what's okay and what's like good enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
right now, it seems like talking to you that at the consumer level, like what's currently accepted is like really not okay in terms of this, good for the planet and just what we should be doing to like be considerate of the way things are working, right? So, how do you determine when to like say, okay, it's finally okay? Because, maybe you could always push it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could, and you could get crazy while doing so, because it really gets impossible. So we are kind of radical in our approach to have like the fair and the cradle to cradle solutions, but it has a limit. And one example is so far we only have 2 products, and this clearly needs to grow to make the business viable. We need more products. But on the daily hook, like this cargo strap for like utility bikes, we have like a rubber coating. We needed some coating. We researched that quite a while, very deeply actually. And that coating ultimately it ended to be like a made in Germany dipping rubber solution. So this needs to be burnt off or landfilled in wherever country you are after use. But it's still something repairable that you can recoat this hook yourself if you wanted to. This is kind of the limit where we say, okay, we have explored all the solutions possible now with what we know, and so we decide for something for the best possible solution. In terms of what the general consumer understands as good enough, I would say we talked about Hope, the bicycle frame and components company. I think that's a really good example, and we really love what they do. And it's still there is a contrast in what we try to do compared to Hope. And maybe I need to open this a little bit. When we started, actually the idea was to come up with Fair Bicycle, launch, and at the same time launch like a label from the bicycle industry with like a social responsibility level. And the idea was to have like 3 or 4 brands that started where we were starting with. I was talking with Moods, with White Industries, and Nikolai. And in the end, only Kalle from Nikolai was really into it. And so we started developing that, how that label would work and what we wanted to do. If you're interested, you think, or is it too deep?
No,
go. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, this is a sirloin steak.
Okay. Yeah, so the idea then between Kalle and us was to do like a label where we had 3 companies that started publishing this label, and it was like basically a questionnaire. There was a big questionnaire asking the company owners, founders, whatever, how they handled certain things with socially and material-wise and cradle-to-cradle-wise. And then it was like a peer-to-peer certification. So the 3 starting members would certify a new applying member through this questionnaire. And we thought it was really credible because everybody knows Moods, everybody knows White, everybody knows Kalle, Nikolai. It's like they have the credibility that they are not just doing it for marketing, right? So that was the idea, and it was actually pretty good. I think it would have worked, but this is also a lot of hard work to communicate this. And ultimately, Kalle said, "Look, I have so many things going on, and we at Fair also that we actually binned this or halted this idea of starting that label. But we would still be interested in if people want to start that." Because the question was, how are we credible? So because we can come up and call ourselves Fair Bicycle, but why would I believe you? So the label was the first idea, and the second idea is what we then ultimately did. And our way today is like full transparency. Like on our website regarding Fair Bicycle, we specify like a bill of material from every product That's down to the sticky tape, down to the grease we use, down to the bolts, of course the machined parts, of all the suppliers. So the suppliers have to sign. It's all blacked out because suppliers are our work, like to build them up, to find them. They sign a formulary where at least they have to state that it is made in XX country, and then it goes quite far. Like they have minimal wage, minimal paid vacation that they indicate, and a bunch of other things, like do they have a union allowed, and do they have like worker committees and that kind of stuff. And it's really cool. Like we are the small guys, but even some big companies, like they were like, okay, yeah, we'll do it, and they send us their minimum wage signed by some responsible for the company, and we put all that online. Like for every product, there's a huge list of all these formularies where they state the raw material provenance. So we do that. That's fully transparent, and that's what we do. And another thing, kind of a filter we found is there is a United Nations Human Development Index. And that's the UN do this every year, and it's basically based on the education level of a country. So there is a 1.0 is the highest rank you can get, and we decided to only source from countries down to 0.9. And to give listeners an idea, so Italy is just below 0.9. So because we think it's totally possible to make something in China or Cambodia totally fair and eco-sustainable, but we cannot prove this as a two-person enterprise. So we need to stick to states where they have laws, yes, but they are also enforced, and so this gives us a certain safety, yeah.
Can you name a few examples that are falling under that list above 0.9? Because that seems pretty restrictive, no?
It's quite restrictive, yeah. So Switzerland is number one, then there's Norway, basically everything you would expect. I think France is just inside, Spain is just inside, but there's also Hong Kong and
a beacon of light in transparency and openness.
Exactly, like they have super high education levels, but like human rights are kicked with boots. So that this of course is a no-go for us, and same with United Arab Emirates is also in there. But we filter this, and ultimately what happened was this was a learning. We end up just doing everything in Switzerland, like the heavy lifting, basically the CNC machining, or the forging if we go into higher numbers. We will just do it in Switzerland. It's so easy to communicate. Small likeliness of errors. So let's see about the fair. This is this UN HDI index we use. And what we publish, the supplier list I said, make it as transparent as possible. And what we also publish is that at Fair Bicycle, which is actually Studio from Scratch is the company that runs Fair Bicycle, is just the brand. We show our minimal wage there, the vacations we do, and we are totally run on fair banking. That's really important for us. I think, Pascal, you're from the banking world, and so we are running everything we do with Alternative Bank Schweiz, which we think, I personally and Valentin, we believe all the banks, all the insurances, they're all criminals, like full stop. It's a they are criminal organizations, and Alternative Bank is not, because they are also very transparent and in what they use your money for. So we are really happy to work with them, and it works well, and that's really cool.
I mean, that's how capitalism works, right? People decide to do with their money what they want to do. That's how it works, right? So, and you decide to work with your bank, and others work with their bank. So it's kind of like implicitly that's your decision, right? So
exactly, yeah. I'm just like astounded by the fact that not more companies go this route and publish it, market it also. Because like in Switzerland. I think our listeners are mostly Swiss people, but the way it works, like you have these regional banks that have like a high level of trust, where people think, oh, I'm at the regional bank, but like your money is going everywhere. Like all these banks, they invest in gold mines in South Africa and whatever 30 businesses, right? So we are just not okay to put our couple millions, no, I'm kidding, our couple bucks in their hands, right? And yeah, the other thing is like what we run at Fair Bicycle, it's not that much energy wise, but we run fully like renewable energy, and we Swiss renewable energies, I should say, and we publish that on our website as well for everybody to see. And this is not published, but we don't have any investors with any kind of interest. It's all our own money, and we build it up. We are all part timers. Wally and myself, we are part timers. We work in the bike industry, and I work on my own basically. And it's our money, or it's friends. It's like cyclists' money that invest. Like if we need to buy a big lot of parts of suppliers. Yeah, that's the fair. It's about how we do it fair. Like it's basically transparency in these points that I mentioned.
You made the comparison with kind of bike brands in general. And so, if I can think back to just being a consumer, I guess, maybe like many people focused on like branding, how things look, who's using it. Is there a Red Bull athlete with that? Um, I guess the question is pointing towards, have you thought about, or have you maybe been in talks with someone who does advocacy for fair trading, fair commercialism, things that are along, in line with your business practices, to kind of like help accelerate the consumer's mind on how they can choose something that's good for, like, beyond that it's cool.
That's a great input, Bryson. We have like just maybe scratched that idea, but we are totally not doing that right now, just because of our capacities. Like I have to say, we are really thankful for how the MTB media works today. Like you can actually we don't know anybody at Pink Bike like personally, like they're not buddies, but we send them, or Bike Room or whatever, we send them like our press release, which is professionally made, and then it gets published. Like this is huge. Like we could never have this reach with our money, with our friends, and kind of, yeah. But it's really a good input, because it's like we said ourselves, we don't want to blame other companies, and I'm sorry if that sounded like that before. Sometimes I'm I maybe a bit too aggressive, if you want to
Cynical,
say so.
I think is the word.
Cynical, yeah. We just think, like Simon Sinek says, like if you know why you're doing something, you just do it, and the people who believe the same thing, they will follow you automatically. You don't have to fight any fight. It doesn't make any sense. So, and it would be great if we actually I don't really know who we would work with in this way, but open to
Well, I
suggestions.
guess
Yeah.
as a first instance, I guess you kind of take a step back with the label, like your fair label that you wanted to create, and can just kind of like bring together those brands that are trying to do things in a certain way. I mean, right off the top of my head, I have at least 5 brands in Switzerland that are trying to work the way you do. Maybe not 100% the way you do, but maybe 90% the way you do. And
I agree.
And and then again, that's how community building works. You bring people together, you share the story, you share the vision, and then you can create around that, hopefully either a standard or an exchange of ideas, or a formal community of some sort that then elevates your entire game, right? Because yes, maybe I'm a turbo capitalist by training, but at the end of the day, there's 2 things really that are challenging, and I guess Bryson kind of touched that already. Is kind of like, oh yeah, who's running my product? Where can I see it? Why should I buy it? Right? Purely from a consumer perspective, it's kind of like, well, there is this product number A, which I have no idea how it is made, but it has nice branding. It comes in a cool looking packaging,
Yeah.
and my favorite athlete is running it.
Yeah.
And then there's the fair product, which probably works equally as good, is fair made, like made in a very transparent and fair way and manner,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no one knows about it. So it's kind of like you need to cross the bridge between, catering to kind of that hardcore, fair, transparent, you know,
Yeah.
niche
Yeah. I
versus
see your
versus your, you need to find an appeal how someone that is, let's say, interested in the topic at the fringes, right? So let's say I have 200 francs to spend, on a pedal, right? So let's say we hosted Felix the other day at Biroma,
yeah.
and he needs to make the same case, right? He needs kind of like, okay, well, someone is paying 200 francs for a pair of pedals. He can buy mine,
Yeah.
which are made here in Europe. He can call me if there's problems. You can go to the hardware store to get all the replacement parts. You can do this, and this. Or you can pay 200 francs for a pair of normal brand pedals that probably last half a season, and then he gets another pair on sale somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that bridge somehow you need to cross to kind of, the product needs to perform on its own, and you still need to cater to your vision in terms of the fair.
Very true. Like we asked ourselves this question: how do we compete against, like say we make a pedal? There's a zillion pedals out there. They all work well. So our answer to that is like we need to make USP products, like unique selling proposition products, because otherwise, why would you like? Of course, you will have the 2 or 3 geeks that think fair is a must, and they will buy our products. But ultimately, we're also capitalists. The goal with Fair Bicycle, by the way, is to make a living for a couple people, which right now is not the case. It's not big enough. So we decided to make like USP products in the sense of like our drop best saddle mount for dropper post. It's, if you need that, you have to buy our product. There is nothing else, absolutely nothing else on the market. So do products like that, or make products that others also do, but with a twist that is exclusive. Like, so that's because that I don't think how we could. I understand what you say with the networking and with building this up, but that takes a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, for sure. Right, you said ask the why, and your why is clear. The why is because you believe that this way is the right way, and I'm sure there's other people that believe in that why, and therefore you need to start moving and pull people with you, right? So that's, if you want to lead this movement, then you need to lead with the why, and then find your people, and then bring them together in a group, right? So that
correct, yeah. As we talked before we started recording, that I told you that there's, out of all the customers we have so far, there's one direct feedback that came, that the person said, okay, you guys really do what you say, like it's what stands on the tin is in there, regarding the packaging and so on. And it's like we were really happy, but at the same time I realized, oh, that's the first person that really appreciates or tells us he appreciates the fair and eco nature of what we do. And honestly, I agree with what you say, Pascal, but I have a hard time to we think to picture how we would do that, other than just doing it and people see us, and then we have strategies to be seen, like regarding the race scene, to be more present there, and then that maybe people will follow who think the same as we do.
Well, you mentioned the right names already, right? So I mean, there is pretty close to you, there is the European Bike Project, who is very keenly interested in quirky projects that are locally made and have a cool story. There is many other forums, from bicycle shows to designer bikes, stuff like that, where you can place your products, right? So I mean, it's the same way as Felix got his brakes on some kind of project bike that was then gold or copper plated or whatever it was, and that created also a little bit of hoo-ha about his products. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously not easy, right? Because you try to do this in an honest way, right? Because that's what it says on the tin with Fair Bicycle. So you can't be letting down your own story, and that's, I guess, the challenge.
No, that's, I mean, actually, as you talk, we are doing this, and in my notes for today, I put down the bullet point network. We are really, Valentin in his way is doing the networking with the race scene, and I do the networking in the industry and supply chain wise, and it's really important. And we're so thankful of all the people who help with whatever, just because we know them, because we have ridden with them, and that's pretty cool. And that's the way, yeah, as you pictured, to go to contact these people, have our stuff on their bikes, and yeah, that's it's actually something we're doing. We're trying to do, and we will do. We will be more visible, but yeah, I really appreciate that you guys bring in this spin of starting this movement and do collabs with other companies who work the same. And in general, I'm really happy for the bike industry that in this last 10 years, so many ideas, people popped up, like Covens. When I first saw that, I thought, wow, that's going to be so tough to make a business out of that. And some people really do. Some have like big companies behind them, and it's just like a project of a machining company or whatever. But yeah, I think we are moving in a good direction, and these things are becoming more mainstream, and we should co-work together. Yeah, of course. We also don't have a picture that there's no competitor to us. We don't care. Like if we we make a nice product and the others do a nice product, it's great. We just like, it was so funny when Anomaly, like the switch grade, this angle adjust saddle clamp. But like their first prototype popped up like a couple days before we sent out the press release for our drop best saddle clamp. And I just thought, I'm like, oh God, if that's please let this not be what we are doing. And it was funny. Yeah, but we should. And I really love what the European Bike Project is doing. Like this tool, they are like the turbo, not turbo capitalizing, but they are putting the turbo in this scene, and yeah, they're doing well. One thing actually that I was thinking as we talk, the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch, I got this totally wrong. For Fair Bicycle, it's Valentin and I. We said we want to do something that is made in companies sourced from the cart box to the CNC parts, in companies where we would actually love to work, like with everything, like the job you do, the payment, the vacation, whatever, the insurance, all this kind of stuff. That's our elevator pitch. Make bike parts in a way that we would like to be involved in every point of the supply chain and sales channel whatsoever, and so on.
Oh, ultimately that you can be proud of, right? So
yeah,
and I guess that's the final thing I'm going to say about building this community and working together, right? So at the end of the day, your goal is not to take business away from anyone else, right? So at the end of the day, you're interested in making that cake of, let's say, fairly made products bigger for everyone, right? Because right now there's a couple of small players that play in that area, but yeah, you generally want to make the awareness of fair manufacturing. You want to create that around it,
A
around your
scene,
story,
basically.
around your
Yeah.
products, and
Yeah.
therefore it's becoming more accepted. Therefore, the cake becomes bigger. Therefore, you can make a sustainable living out of making these
Yeah.
products. I guess that's the summary of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's a great outlook. Yeah, and I'm also really thankful to the cyclist or MTB scene that all these things that get published, like European Bike Project. Yeah, they get so many views and so many comments. Like it's appreciated. Like people are open to that, and that's really cool to see. I think like it's like say trick stuff or whatever intent they make a new product. It gets the same attention as the new Scott Genius or other Scott Ransom, and I think that's really amazing. Like people appreciate all these steel homemade bikes that pop up, and it's so cool.
I think it's moving in the right direction. You're correct. I also definitely applaud you for coming up with this idea, executing it, and sticking to your guns, and developing the idea deeper. I have a question, and I'll ask it just after I say something else. I don't want to sound negative, but what's going through my mind is it sounds like, at least from what I've heard now, that the unique selling point of Fair Bicycle is also the fact that it's fair. It's not only that the products are unique themselves, but that the process of doing it and the company itself is fair. And that, I think, the consumer isn't conditioned yet. I'm speaking very generally. This consumer isn't conditioned yet to understand that this can benefit them. I think we are, let's say we, because I'm one of them, we're conditioned to understand this is my theory anyways, there's like kind of a standard marketing practice or a sales tactic or whatever you want to call it, where they show the product or maybe they tease it or then they show a cool product shot and there's an athlete with it. So you have representation, and consumers see this and they see, oh, that's the way it's done. I feel good about the way that it's being shown to me. I read reviews and the reviewers say it's a good product, and by all rights, it is a good product. And I am also happy to buy those things and use them without them breaking. It's great. But at the same time, it detracts from your USP is like a blessing and a curse.
Spot on.
Yeah. I
So the question I have
go for it.
is, have you also thought about using this tactic to also create non-bicycle products? Because there's a world of products we can definitely develop, right?
Yeah, I have, and we with our product design company, and we have failed, not colossally, but we realized that in short, like we worked on like a light e motorcycle for a client, and made it a project for ourselves, and in the end it didn't really work out, and it's also in furniture stuff, and mostly furniture. And then I just realized for myself, I'm a bicycle guy. Like my heart is
Stick to
in
the
the
core.
bicycle. Like I want to shred corners and like tuck it down like a high-speed road descent. That's what I'm living for. I don't care
Couple
about
skids here and
electric.
there.
Yeah, and giggles maybe. Yeah, and that's and Valentin one day put it like, yeah, but what you're doing is an e-motorcycle. I get it. It's lightweight, blah blah blah. It's nice, but what do you do with e-motorcycles? With motorcycles, I've never ridden a motorcycle myself, and I'm like, okay, you're right, yeah. So from that moment on, yeah, we realized that it's gonna be in the bike thing, and it's not like we don't want that people buy us because we are fair. It's just what we do, and we really enjoy it. Like it's so painful sometimes to find like a US made bolt that has the right performance, and then we need to get a coating so it doesn't rust and people don't complain. So, but when we do find the solutions, we are really happy. Like the other day I was at a Swiss supplier who coats our bolts that are made in the US. They are tough as, and it's so good when you can shake hands with the people. They put it in their process. It's their pride to make like spot on solution. In this case, coating bolts. That's what's fun for us. And for the rest, we know we need to make products with a USP. Otherwise, we don't have the marketing budget or strength to position a product that is just another stem, just another whatever saddle. Yeah.
But it's a way to get your name out and prove your metal as a designer and developer of products.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I guess there is a compromise between the two, right?
True.
Because
Yeah.
it's if you only want to create products that are very unique, per definition, you're creating a niche.
A niche of the niche, basically. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like, sometimes you need to, I'm not saying compromising, but I mean, just kind of also create products that maybe you, are not
Yeah.
USP, but they're a fresh take,
Yeah.
right? And they are made in a certain way, and you can tell a cool story around how it's made and where it's made, and generally people like that kind of stuff too.
Totally agree, and it gives you
that's
visibility.
kind of-
That's, if I understand you right, like to
Exactly.
use them as a visibility thing. Yeah, that's what we try to do with we have 2-3-ish products that will be like race products. In this case, XC race, and this will give us the visibility. But in basically there is nothing crazy different. With these products. So yeah, we definitely plan it. The other thing is from a manufacturing and like calculation point of view, it's really hard to make like let's use like a Shimano crankset. Like if you want to make an alloy crankset that is better than a Shimano crankset, it's like you are investing like in forgings, in toolings, and that's what you see. All the small guys like us, they use CNC process or 3D printing processes, not mass manufacturing, because you then to play the big game. And I agree. Then you have like a nice aluminum crankset at a low price. You can sell it and have your brand visible, but it's really, yeah, it's not what we want to do. We don't, because I also don't want to wake up in the morning and know, okay, there's investors that have given us 5 million to like forge and weld a crank in Switzerland, which we could do. It's not the kind of pressure that I'm made for or strive for.
Yeah, no, but again, there is some kind of a happy sweet spot somewhere between being commercial and trying to create a product that is unique in its own way,
Yeah,
whatever that way is, but somehow still attractive and performs,
Yeah.
and
Right.
people want it without an enormous
yeah.
investment.
That's true. Yeah, and it's also clear, like always we have analyzed a bit the not the competitors, but what people who are out there, and if you look at it, most people have like a cash cow, like a big cash cow. I know is just from DT Swiss. Like the spokes are the cash cow. Like they are like, if you are in the factory, you hear this dum 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 dum. Every dum is a spoke, is a couple cents made. Even if it's, I don't know how many cents it is and how many, I don't know the numbers. And also other companies, yeah. So we probably should do this, yeah. Like say, just make a stem, and that has a twist, but it's properly done, fair. But it's a stem that has a big market. That's what you're saying, right, Pascal? Like
Yeah.
Focus on where the fish is.
Well, that and kind of also, it's a fine balance, and I guess that's a key learning from talking a little bit more with Felix. Is obviously, let's take his brakes, right? So that's kind of a big purchase item for most people, and that is a very high hurdle to take. Whereas a stem is, or in this case, like the pedals or the stem or brake rotors or whatever it is, right? So that is a much easier pill to swallow to get someone on board with your product, to kind of trust in your brand and to get going, and then potentially later is happy to invest more into, let's say, more higher higher priced item, whatever that may be.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, yeah. We are investigating this. That there is this idea of like a cash cow, if you will, or and visibility bringer, that
Yeah.
would be important to us. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, it just comes to mind the black line from Intend. They
yeah,
make a very unique product or products now, and then they decided, okay, let's bring out this black line, which is kind of like the basics. We just coat black. We don't do special colors. Yeah, it's more normal-ish products, but Intend style. And when that came out, I thought, oh, okay, something a little different. I didn't expect that from them because they're really like USP of USP,
everything new is a
and
new USP of the US.
yeah. But I mean, I've never spoken with Cornelius or anyone at anyone there, but it definitely helped bring the visibility.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's maybe there's the same. I don't know the story. Also, don't know the guys personally, but probably there's the same thinking of what Pascal described and behind that, like because let's be honest, it's tough to make a living out of selling bike parts that are made, and that's another interesting aspect I will go into later, that are made fair and that are like cool and made by riders. So you need these kind of things. Otherwise, it's really tough if you don't have a back business like, say, a machine shop that does machining for whoever, whatever. So you need something. The interesting thing is, I think Kenny and going consumer direct with full bicycles, selling full bicycles, really paved the way, because without going consumer direct for us, it would be totally impossible margin-wise. Like we put so much work to make the products to be manufacturable efficiently here in Switzerland, and if we go to suppliers and ask, like they will offer, like somebody will offer triple what somebody else does in the same offer, and the lowest offer we still have to negotiate hard and work with these suppliers, and that's what I also really enjoy, because I'm a machinist by training as well, and to achieve a price point that is actually, like on Pink Bike, all these people, yeah, but this pedal today, the rental pedal, 200 or whatever, is so expensive. And I was just doing the math. Okay, so one pedal body, we never did the pedal thought experiment. One pedal body is going to be like this, and then you need axles and bearings, and that's just the reality. If it's a UK made, I don't know if it is, but I think.
Yeah, rental is, I think, mostly UK made, no?
I think the aluminum stuff, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The aluminum stuff is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now we lost the path of the. I think we were at this black line from Intend, like just do like normal, basically is good enough, but it will bring you visibility, it will offer a good price point, performance for the customers, and yeah. Yeah. Well, now that we have basically found solutions for all the issues, like goes down to the manual card we give with every product. There's like stamped by hand. It's a cardboard made in Germany out of German recycling paper. That's just details. But we have everything. We have a solution for screws, for lubrication things, for CNC suppliers, all these kind of. So it's not that we cannot do it, but it's just that we focused so far more on this USP stuff, and we will call the product.
Before we jump on actual products,
Yeah.
I wanted to just put in another thought for you.
Go for it. We are
Ding.
thankful.
Think about all that work that you've already put in terms of finding suppliers, finding the process, shipping stuff, how we're going to do it, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That is
So,
the
I'm
product.
taking notes, Pascal. I'm taking notes.
At the very least, you should write a book. And
Are you reading my mind, Pascal?
and the other thing is, you should open a consulting business
Yeah.
that says fair, and this is how this stuff actually works, and you can work with other bike brands
Yeah.
and explain to them how they should be doing it. I
Write
think
this
that is
down.
you.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
that's
your
cool.
USP, right? Because you've spent so much time
Yeah, it's true.
on
Absolutely true.
thinking that stuff through.
Yeah,
You basically have
yeah,
a PhD in fair bicycle,
kind of.
and
Yeah, yeah.
now it's time to sell books.
Hey, I have a between Valentin and myself because it's kind of intimate, but we are writing down the hours we put in just for records because we started in 2018. That was. With the first product which we abandoned, but it now created really good project with as like a external designer. Anyways, so we have these hours written down in an Excel sheet yeah, it's pretty cool. It's probably
Probably brings tears to your eyes to think about all the goddamn hours you spent on this
and
and
my
still
wife's
nothing
eyes
coming back.
especially. Yeah, it's like, oh, we could have done this and that. Yeah,
Labor of love, Pascal.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
It happens. It happens late at night mostly, like Felix I from 612. I think that was his motto to make the name, right? From 12 to 6 in the morning, something like that.
Yeah,
It's
that's
also
the
not very
alternate-
beneficial
alternate
for
version.
your marriage, right?
That's what he can brag about for sure.
Exactly.
That's funny. Yeah, yeah. So definitely that's what happens. A lot of late evenings but we just do it for fun, and we have found a way that it works with our families, and it's kind of acceptable.
Yeah. No, but I think that is that should be a new section on your homepage. Should be
very cool.
consulting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have kind of had this thought for a while, and but actually, yeah, I mean, I do this from time to time. I work as.
I mean, we will stick our bill into the mail when we're done recording, and
I was gonna say at least, yeah, we need to call it like the next products, Kids and Giggles, and because we use these two-part names, that's part of like Drop Best, Daily Hook, and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, Pit Stop is gonna be one.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of the product ideas, right? Because so far we've talked a little bit about we talked a lot about how you're going to do it or how you are doing it. What things are important, fairness, transparency, all these kind of things. So you mentioned Drop Best a couple of times.
Yeah.
You mentioned race specific a couple of times. You mentioned cargo bikes.
Yeah.
So what are the things that people can actually buy today?
Today you can only buy two products. You can buy our Daily Hook cargo strap, which is like it's this the really cheap straps that you buy from the hardware store for $5. It's this, but in made forever, repairable, and cradle to cradle. That's one product, the Daily Hook, and the other one is Drop Best, which is this offset saddle mount for right now only for RockShox Reverb. That's it. Yeah.
And is that so? I was thinking about that, right? Because if you think about the circularity of your business or what you're trying to do, it is kind of like, is that part of the idea? Is to kind of make RockShox Reverb fitted bikes from maybe 5-10 years ago with geometry that is not so great, bring them into 2024? Or is it really just to adjust geometry? Or what was the thinking behind the Drop Best?
Yeah, the thinking was not that one. It was just that we saw a need for. I was just being pissed off. We were talking. For the listeners, we were doing basically a retro vintage MTB talk before we started recording. And this era where you had like such slack seat angles because people were talking all kinds of advantages that I'd never understood. So when this still continued, and I was just getting pissed, and I thought, okay, if I raise my saddle a little bit, I'm just way far behind. If I let's say I ride a medium-sized frame or whatever. So the Drop Best was born out of that to adjust for riders to make these bikes usable, and a lot of things we learned from so many emails we get. It's just amazing by the bike culture. Like people write you, hey, we should do this, we should do that, and I would like to have it for a one-up post, for example. There's a million emails, but and we realized through that many people say, oh, okay, with this I can make my old bike work again, or I can adjust it, and so we are now focusing on that. And something really interesting, NSMB. I don't know if probably know those guys.
Yeah, of course.
Mountain bike. Yeah. Andrew there, he has a series of articles where he calls min-max, which he calls min-max. So with minimum effort, maximizing an old bike, and it's really cool. And the comment section there is really goes wild, and it's amazing. Yeah. So we are not out of intent, but we are now trying to do that because it fits perfectly with like the eco thing. If the best jacket is the one you don't buy, which is something Patagonia made in one of their famous ads, right? So the best bike is the one you don't buy. It's also very true. And also, before we recorded, we talked about how durable bikes are now today. So you can actually ride an old bike, and yeah. So that's a target. Yeah, that's a target. Yeah. Um, Yeah, so this maybe I can continue. It's quite specific regarding drop best. We are manufacturing. We have now like a follow-up product of that, which is going to be compatible with basically all seat posts that use like vertical clamping bolts, like a Thomson style seat post. So very modular, very flexible solution. Has been a huge development for. It's been in the making for 3 years from when we went live with this first drop best. We already realized, okay, the reverb is not the post number one anymore, and but it was good. We went to market. We thought about halting it and redeveloping it. It's good we went to market, and then we got all this feedback. It's really that's maybe a good advice for somebody who thinks of making a product. Just at a certain point, get started, get it out there, and you get feedback. Take the risks, spend the money, because it's quite this is like a $20,000 invest if we make a batch of a couple hundred of these parts. So it's not something you, as a small company,
but again, that's kind of like, and that's kind of what I start feeling through the wires, is that is kind of the bit of the problem, right? So you have such a high standard for what you want to do that the bar for actually putting something out is incredibly high. It's like if we wanted to make the most perfect podcast, we would have never gotten started, right? At some stage, we just said, let's just do it and see what happens. And here we are. And and then again, then it's out there and people can give you feedback. You feel if you like it, that's all important part of the process, right?
Yeah. Stuff needs to get real. Yeah, it's and I mean we are quite fortunate. We have this network of friends. One guy has a machining shop, but so it's also good for our exposition. But this is shite, guys. Like you should actually really. So they will slow you down and like, okay, that's maybe it's good. Like as always in life, I think exposition is good. Like it's again something that I learned in the studies, but when I studied industrial design, but unfortunately too late. Like this networking, just like if you like a company, go there, knock on their door, physically go there and say, hey, hello, I'm this guy, I have these skills. Can I get it working with you or learning from you? And that's something that I learned only after the studies, and unfortunately, and that's something we do heavily now. I just call people, I go there, it's embarrassing at times because you are the freak, but it's really amazing what you like. One example, I needed a torque wrench which was higher than the torque I have here in my workshop. So I went to this agricultural workshop here that I know. I'm in the countryside. And he's like, oh, but we only have from 200 Newton meters up. I'm like, okay, it's too much. But go knock this door. There's a guy who has a workshop. So I knock there, and it's like, I don't know the guy. And he has like a lathe and a milling machine and a full-on workshop, like a small, inside his house. And we started talking. Yeah, I have the torque wrench, but I'll just calculate it for you. It's fine. He's an engineer. And so we start talking, and then I was like, I'm gonna buy a machine to like, that was way in the beginning. To make my own milling and lathing operations, and he's like, I don't do that. Like, you can just come here. Like, you can just use my workshop. It's in his apartment, the workshop, and so that's now where I spend most of the time prototyping, just because I went to ask the guys that I didn't know about a torque wrench. I ended up with this friendship now. And the way it works, we have some chicken here, and it's an old farm where I live. And I bring him eggs every time I go use his workshop, and I just pay him in eggs, basically, for
There you go.
the drill bits I break. And yeah.
Oh my God, this is so wholesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, the story is. I'm sure you also have these and you're actually just doing that with every podcast, right? You're breaking into somebody's life and how you're connected forever, basically.
Oh yeah, no, that's I think one of the coolest things to come out of the podcast is kind of these networks and connections and kind of, and then also obviously the coolest thing is when you can bring people together from across the different conversations that we've had, and for again, I guess Bryson can also attribute agree with that. With that's why it was so cool to have Felix at Biroma. So Biroma, Greg was he was a guest. He's a good friend. Felix, we could bring them together. We could fill the shop with people. He could present his product. So that's why it was a really, really cool experience. And yeah, hopefully something we can do again.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I was thinking that this because when I was working at E76 for a long time in product management marketing, and then as a designer after my studies, product design, and I had this kind of media. I kind of like it, and I thought of doing it would be really interesting to go to the industry. As that's an idea from my side for you, to go to the big guns and try to ask all the questions, to be honest, what's your margin, what's going on strategically, because I think that the general public doesn't know why certain things are. Sometimes I read in the forums and in the comment sections, I'm like, oh, but that's obvious why it's like that, and there's probably a lot of nuggets for podcasting still there.
All right, Marco, we talked a lot about your company, your goals, your vision, and some of your products, and I guess we talked a lot about the challenges, and I guess what would be good to hear is how people can help you with any of those challenges if they have ideas, inputs, or any of that sort. What are you actually looking for, and how can people help?
It's a good question. We never asked ourselves this question from outside. How could people help us? One thing we know is, and we put it in, we have this bill of material of the products. So sometimes we write for example, for this rubber coating that I mentioned before, guys, this is not a circular solution. If you have the know-how, because we know somewhere in the world it is, get in touch and let us know how we can do better, because we simply couldn't manage however deep we were digging. And otherwise, just product ideas or get in touch. I think the easiest is by email or phone. If you're nearby for a talk, for a ride, we have good espresso here. Every rider is welcome. And for just connecting in general. If there is people out there listening, manufacturers, whatever, private people, just get in touch. I guess, with your feelings.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
There is, just because I realized we didn't talk about how I came into this cycling world, and I think it's probably interesting maybe for the young people or also for the old and people. I just did the classic. My neighbor bought a high-end mountain bike, a GT LTS thermoplast, and I was 12 years old. I was just making my parents a hard time from that moment on. And I convinced them for 1,500 Swiss francs in 1995 probably that I could buy his old GT RTS full suspension mountain bike. So that was my first proper mountain bike. And then it started, and then I got just this high-end bike shop that just make custom-made bikes in Horgen opened up, and I was like, oh shit, that's amazing. And then I wanted to drop out of gymnasium because I sucked there, and then I went to the guy, and it was like snowballing. And it's like, okay, can I make a mechanic bicycle mechanic apprenticeship. And he's like, no, because I'm an electrician, I have no idea of. But you can just come work here and I'll teach you how to lace wheels. And from that day, I started there 6 years, and I never took 1 Swiss franc. I got paid in bike parts and frames and whatever through all these years. And then, I followed my dream. I was telling you, I had this idea to go to California because I'm not a winter person. So I went to all this again. I went to knock at Santa Cruz, Fox Suspension, Thompson, all these people that I ended up. Eventually went to Sea Otter Classic, and there a guy just basically gave me a job in a bike shop in North Vancouver. Instead of California, I went to... And then I want to say, follow your dream and what you feel. And then my former boss from the bike shop called me in Switzerland. Hey, I'm at TT Swiss. We need somebody here, junior product manager, marketing. And so I went back from Canada, started right away there. And then I bought a pinion bike from MTB Cycle Tech because I thought it's amazing. And then I landed the job there. When I picked up the bike, I landed a job there. And then again, when I was selling our Daily Hook cargo straps, I was, in the meantime, I was also on my own as a product designer with Studio from scratch. I went to talk to Monopole, which is this new cargo bike company from Zurich, about the cargo straps. And we wrote the bike, blah, blah, blah. In the end, now I work there as a part-time. And it's just a great network of, follow your dream. And the bike, I think the bike industry gives back quite a bit.
I'm also right up there with you. There is
cool. Yeah, we're all in there. Right?
We're all driven by our passion, and I think when you're in the bike industry, that all connects us. So I think that's really nice. But I guess we spent a lot of time. Okay, our time wasn't wasted, but there is one question that actually is very important.
Okay.
Marco, please, I would like to know from you, in the fair bicycle way, what is a perfect skid?
Oh, damn it. The one I was thinking of is totally not fair bicycle, totally not eco.
Uh-oh.
I'll go for it anyways because
the other kind of radical.
Yeah. The guy I was working with him in North Van in the bike shop, a mechanic, amazing BMX skills. Like we're talking no brakes, BMX stuff.
Uh-oh.
And he was just on his track, old beat up hardtail. We were on From mountain biking. He just had this bike and obviously he ripped. And then there's like this, it's not mountain highway, but it's another steep road. And he had like this 1.9-inch spike tire on the back. And he was just on V-brakes, just putting his weight on the bars. His name is Zach. And just engaged the rear brake until the tire exploded, right? So he ground through the spikes and boom. And that's the most memorable skid. But does that even categorize as a skid?
Of course.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It does. Okay, cool.
An epic proportion, for sure.
No, because the brake was applied. And I'm like... Do you even drift, bro? Like, it's no brakes applied.
Do you even skid, bro?
Do you even skid, bro? Yeah, we should start. You should start that.
Yeah, we're gonna get a sticker. T-shirts printed as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the skid I remember. Zach, like out of nothing, I just see him, bam.
That's a good description. I can imagine this. I haven't seen the same thing, but I can imagine from different scenarios what this would look like.
Well, what's going on? Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time. This was really, really interesting. You mentioned you would like people to reach out to you, and if they want to find you, where will they find you?
We are on Instagram, so we direct message there. Not very responsive, but you can go to fairbicycle.com and hit us with hello@fairbicycle.com via email, or call me. This is my phone number direct, so you can just call me.
Ultimate transparency.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we stick all of those things into the show notes so people can find it there.
Cool. Yeah.
And with that, we say thank you very much. That was really, really interesting. We hope you enjoyed your time.
Thank you, guys.
And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Bryce, and thank you, Pascal, and thanks to the MTB community. Yeah. which makes all this possible.
Thanks for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Why don't you let us know what you think? We really like to hear from our listeners. To find out how to get in touch with us, follow the links to our website in the description or find us on Instagram under @skitsandgiggles. Until next time, Skigglers.